Hey everyone, thank you for joining me on this presentation. My name is Lauren and I am an outreach educator with the Crime Victims Council of the Lehigh Valley. Today we'll be talking about stress and coping and sort of what's going on with some of these different changes that we are experiencing. So I hope that you enjoy Stressed is Dessert Spelled Backwards. Before we get into the actual presentation, I just want to share a little bit about who we are. The Crime Victims Council started in 1973, and we are a nonprofit, private, comprehensive service. We are the local Rape Crisis and Victim Services Center. So back in 1973, we were just the Rape Crisis Center. And since then, we have evolved to work with anybody who has been a victim of a crime. So that could be sexual assault, bullying, a survivor of homicide, arson, theft, robbery. If you have been victimized or a family member has been victimized and you are experiencing some of those effects, you can come and receive services in either our Lehigh County office, which is in Allentown, downtown by the PPL Center, if you are familiar, or in Northampton County in Easton. We are confidential and we work with past traumas and we are mandated reporters. So we do not report your crime. We do not report what happened unless you want to press charges. But if you are a harm to yourself or others and you indicate that, we are mandated to report. So our services, again, are no cost, confidential, and if you are 14 years of age or older, there is no parental consent required. So the services that we provide include our direct services, which is counseling. So you can have individualized counseling and or group services. Some services include a sexual assault homicide survivors group, a girls group, a parent advocacy group. And the counselors work based upon your schedule. You don't have to come in weekly. You can come in bi-weekly, monthly, but you will work one-on-one with your counselor. We also offer police, court, and hospital advocacy. So if you need to attend a court date, we have court advocates in both courthouses in Lehigh and Northampton County to assist you with the process. Go to the police, or if you are at the hospital, an advocate can come and support you. Our services are meant to be comprehensive and short-term, but we necessarily don't really have a limit. We like to base the services upon your needs and reevaluate your services when you are in counseling. And the primary piece that I do here is this outreach and community involvement. There are 2 educators and a supervisor, and we go out in the community to talk about certain things, talk about education awareness. How can we educate our community about sexual violence? How can we help prevent some of these things that talk about sexual violence or theft or being maybe cyberbullied? So we work with pretty much anybody. We are out in elementary schools, all the way through colleges, and we work with the elderly population as well. So if there are topics that you might want to learn about, reach out to us and we can see if there's anything that we can do for you. Additionally, I will leave this up for a couple seconds. This is our 24/7 hour hotline. If you ever feel that you need somebody to talk to, something is not right, you might not feel safe, you need to talk to a counselor about what is going on, you can call our hotline at 2 a.m., 2 p.m., midnight, and you can talk with us. We want to make sure that you are safe, that you're okay, and we're just there for you to listen, maybe provide some resources. But this is a very great resource. And we like to talk about Crime Victims Council because even though you might not need them, maybe somebody else that you might know is struggling, that they could reach out and we could give them some of their services. So feel free to write this down. And now we'll kind of get into the crux of our program. So we're going to go through a couple things about worrying and stress and some of the differences. So maybe there's a situation that's a little bit risky or scary, but the worry exaggerates so much that you feel afraid to try things. So it's like your body's alarm system causing that false alarm. It's like your mind is seeing things through all these worry glasses, and you're like, what if this happens? Or what if that? Everything that could go wrong. Worry is the cognitive component of anxiety. So cognitively, it happens in your mind. It's not happening in your body. And once you kind of learn to recognize the sound or look of worry, you can start to manage it. So it's like, maybe you can try to imagine a comedian that you like in your head, or sing Old MacDonald to help you bring back to base. And we're going to talk a little bit about self-care and how to ground yourself. But over time, you can turn down the volume of those worry thoughts and your brain can calm down. So you'll be able to have that direct line of realistic thinking. And once you learn to recognize the sound of what worry is, you can begin to feel free to take the power away from the worry. Now, then what is stress? Sometimes we use these words interchangeably, and that's okay. But stress in general is that uncomfortable feeling someone develops when they feel scared, frustrated, angry, see, there's that word, or worried. It's physiological. So this is like more of the biological or natural response connected to an external or an outside event. It's like, have you ever gotten butterflies in your stomach, maybe before a presentation, or you're about to go on stage? These can be good stress, or maybe even some bad stressors. Good stress is when we feel excited, pushes us to new heights. And you can see here, it might mistake it for distress because our body's trying to figure out, is this going to be beneficial to us? Are we going to like it? And it's like that adrenaline rush. It encourages positive growth. You know, moving, learning a new language, starting a new job. Think about some of these good stressors in your life. But sometimes when we do have stress, you know, we recognize that it affects our mood and our body in many ways. And we talk about this fight, flight, or freeze. So I want to take a minute to play this video for you, and then we can talk about it.
Humans, like all species, have self-protective mechanisms to help us survive. Our fundamental first survival response is designed to localize and control the part of the fight or run from an ambush or threats to move from a threat. Our brains sometimes also interpret safe situations as dangerous and can set off false alarms. When the amygdala, our brain's emotion, senses a danger, our body enters survival mode rather than our brain working and alert, or like trying to figure out how to feel in danger. A lack of that will start to program our brain and fight puts it into action, and our heart starts beating very fast. Those changes simultaneously push our internal system and our brain is just as active for fighting breathing exercises. As a way of getting around for action, Like sometimes we start controlling and fall away, while tension starts building in muscles like the thighs, neck, and shoulders. In our head, FFFRs cause our brain to focus on the moments, even if something failed to bring down the outcomes. Without this reinforcement, our liver is not able to enforce our focus and ambition, but as a result, there's a clear foundation. FFF activation also consists of our ability to recognize differences in movement patterns. Two transition and two efforts can result in dizziness or tiredness, which rapidly adds up to significant fatigue. But the best way to express how transition is versus how natural to do it. It's further improves fatigue effectively. Over time, depression, anxiety, and high levels of stress are more brain's ability to slow and move across FFF activations, causing an antidepressant. One of the symptoms of stress activations introduces to recognize the observing effects. Activities within the liver bottom up and top down techniques to reduce stress FFF activation have proven to be important methods.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that video. I always find the drawings really fun and wish I could draw like that. So just a quick overview again of fight, flight, or freeze. It is your body's natural reaction to danger. And it's a type of stress response cycle that helps you to reach or to see perceived / real threats and what to do about it. And it also talks a little bit about trauma. We're not going to get too much into trauma, but trauma lies on a continuum. And it is a lot about this fight, flight, or freeze. When we are faced with a threat, a message is sent to a part of our brain, and it assesses the threat, and it helps us decide what we are going to do. And I want to reiterate too and say, trauma can occur on a continuum, and my trauma is no better or worse than your trauma. It's how we feel about what we are feeling. So it's that survival instinct. It's that automatic reaction. The fight or flight is an active defense. Our heart rate might increase, which increases oxygen to our muscles, and then it can help us respond appropriately. Maybe we are feeling nauseous, or our hands and our fists flex up. We just have this glaring look. Whereas freeze, our body is on hold to further protect ourselves. We might feel stuck or numb, our heart pounding, maybe lose our sense of orientation. And again, this is just all a response to anxiety, stress, worry, and trauma. So you heard worry, you heard stress. So then what is anxiety? In a way, anxiety is what happens when you're dealing with a lot of stress and worry. So it's the sum, right? We have the brain, we have the cognitive thinking, mental component of worry, and then we have our physiological, the body, the natural component of stress. So thinking about it like a smoke alarm. Smoke alarms are helpful for alerting us to danger when there's a fire and we need to get out of the building. But sometimes smoke alarms go off even when there isn't a big danger. Maybe like when we burn our popcorn or a toast. But it makes the same sound for big emergency fires or little non-emergency fires. So anxiety does the same thing. It tells us that there's a danger, a big danger potentially, even if the situation is actually not that big. It feels like a big danger because anxiety sends the same signals. But the good news is we can learn skills to tame that anxiety alarm and no more burnt toast alarms. So, anxiety can present itself in many different ways. And how do they show up for you? Are they physically, psychologically, behaviorally? Sometimes it is difficult to express what we are feeling. And sometimes it takes us being aware of our bodies as well. So, psychologically, are we overthinking things? Are we obsessing about our thoughts? Physically, do we clench our jaws, our fists, our shoulders tense near our ears? We're sweating, heart beating. Behavioral, are we actively avoiding situations? So you can see here in this image other ways and thinking about, are they physically, behaviorally, psychologically? Maybe are you avoiding activities or events at school or in school because we are in a tough situation and we're struggling to pay attention? And maybe our bodies really aren't recognizing that yet, but in reality, it's just not caught up to our mind yet. So when you think about anxiety in middle school, our homework load, right? The amount of homework that we might receive, of course, is higher than what you have gotten in elementary school. So a study has shown that an average of over 3 hours of homework per night for students with 5 classes is good. Our busy schedules, we had sports, dancing, instruments, other activities, and finding downtime can be difficult. However, maybe we aren't as busy anymore, right? Trying to figure out this new way of coexisting with each other virtually. Peer pressure is still very real. Even before middle school begins, students, I have done it before, we're starting to care more about what others think. And that can lead to negative peer pressures like drugs and alcohol. But there also can be positive peer pressure, like going out and trying for that sport or that play, doing something together with your friends. Image concerns, right? We know that social media has created a 24-hour-a-day platform for peer pressure. And bullying is a problem that we need to talk about more, and what that does to us. And especially now, everything that is virtual, being disconnected. And if we see people posting things more on social media, we might feel a sense of jealousy that maybe they are doing more things than us. But in reality, we don't know. Maybe they are dealing with their own anxiety, and that's why they are posting more things online. And lastly, financial concerns. So in middle school, in school, in life in general, people who can't afford the quote hottest brands of clothing, backpacks, or smartphones can feel left out. And again, that kind of ties into our image, then our peer pressure. And then if we're not focusing on our homework and we're retreating, a lot of these things build up on each other. And again, talking about the social distancing blues, being a teenager with these hormonal changes, adrenaline rushes is a difficult phase. And I see you and I hear you because I've been there. So our new ways of interacting with each other is sort of like that live long and prosper saying. We're using hand gestures, fist pumps instead of handshakes. And we're using Zoom instead of conference rooms, classrooms. And, we're smiling through our masks thinking that everyone can see us. I know I do that all the time. So when we experience these changes, it's important to recognize that change is an ongoing process. It keeps upsetting and then resetting the terms of people's existence in their lives, moving from old to new, same to different, familiar to unfamiliar, and known to unknown. And the only thing about change is that it's constant. We recognize that you are missing out on important things and some of the best times of your lives. And I feel that. And I really hope this presentation is taking it in for you, and we can talk more about how do you cope and what are the coping skills, because we have healthy and unhealthy coping skills. So coping skills are things that you choose to help you respond to your feelings, stress, anger, anxiety, and other emotions. So within healthy coping skills, we have a problem-based and emotion-based. And in general, healthy coping skills should help make you feel better. It does not harm others physically or emotionally or yourself, and they don't lead to negative consequences. So problem-based. It's helpful when you need to change your situation. So do you need to work on managing time? Do you maybe need to go to bed a little bit earlier? Do you need to create a to-do list? Are you a visual learner that you can actually check off things that you've done? Whereas emotion-based is helpful when you need to take care of a feeling, when you either don't want to change your situation or when circumstances are out of control. So it's meditation, grounding yourself, exercising, getting out of that frustration, giving yourself a pep talk like, yes, I'm worthy. Yes, I can do this. Healthy coping strategies may soothe you temporarily, distract you, or help you tolerate distress. And sometimes it is helpful to face your emotions head on because they may help you change your mood. So talking to a friend, meditate, music, reading, journaling, coloring. That is one of my favorite things to do. I have about 5 books now for coloring. You know, playing with your pet, a stress ball, exercise, taking a bubble bath, going for a walk, having some tea, baking, gardening, and smiling. It takes less muscles for you to smile than to frown. So what about self-care then? Self-care and coping skills are sort of complementary of each other. But self-care are activities and practices that help you reduce stress and enhance your well-being. So coping skills, though, are actually the activities or behaviors that we have learned, things that we have done naturally that we utilize in the moment to help manage stressful situations, overwhelming emotions, and regularly utilizing these coping skills is an integral part of our self-care routine. So think of like coping skills as a broad umbrella. Generally, people have all these coping skills, but self-care is personalized to meet your specific needs. They're deliberate, thoughtful, and intended to nourish yourself. So what works for one person may not work for another or be relevant. Self-care routines may change as your lifestyle needs change. And your goal is to keep a healthy balance between all of your systems, right? Mentally, emotionally, physically. There actually have been shown that studies shown that Gen Z and millennials are becoming more aware and interested in their mental health. And I think that is really cool because we are taking a stand. We're putting sometimes ourselves first, which is not always easy to do because how can we take care of ourselves and others if we can't take care of ourselves first? And it's important to be successful both inside and outside the classroom. You know, having that space, having stability. I like to say, if you need to lay down and listen to a recording, and that's a comfortable space for you, and you know you're going to be paying attention more, that's okay. I don't expect everyone to always be sitting in a seat properly sat up, especially in times like this. You want to check in with yourself. What kind of hobbies do you have? Are you eating well? What are we doing on social media? This is how you can start to take care of yourself. Because if we don't, we have some of these unhealthy coping skills. You know, they might make you feel good in the moment, but they usually tend to lead to consequences. And they might be harmful to yourself and others. And the pattern of these, you know, unfortunately leads to poor relationships with others. So lashing out, we're arguing, we're not really hearing each other. Maybe we're overeating or undereating. We might procrastinate, right? A lot of things are just maybe overwhelming and we're not able to recognize those signs. And if we procrastinate in school, we procrastinate in our chores, how do you think that might affect you in your future? Here's your under eating, time management, social media. Are we posting rumors? Are we using social media to not be our authentic selves? And unfortunately, drugs and alcohol, that can be very unhealthy coping skills, especially in times of stress and where we're at. So reach out for support if you can. So let's talk a little bit about our thoughts, feelings, and actions, right? It's sort of like a cycle. Your thoughts affect your perceptions, and therefore, excuse me, your interpretation of reality. Excuse me. Perception acts as a lens through which we see our reality. Our perceptions then influence how we focus on, how we process, remember, interpret, understand, synthesize or put together, decide about, and act on a reality. So if you think you're a failure, you'll feel like a failure, which reinforces that the belief that you then must be a failure. So people operate from their own level of perception. And I'm talking about this cycle because it impacts our stress, our worry, and our anxiety. And sometimes it's okay to have different thoughts and have different perceptions and views. As you can see, it's a 6. No, it's a 9. You both can be right. And it's also, though, how our thoughts directly influence how we feel and how we behave. So if it's negatively impacting us, what are some of those things that we can do? And how can we be in control of our thoughts? Because you actually are in control of your thoughts. When you are stressed and you stress out, you may overly exert yourself. And it's important to recognize those thoughts and feelings, right? So we might have a snowball effect. Excuse me. Say you wake up late and you have a math test. So you woke up late, you might miss your math test. Your mom has to drive you to school. Your mom's mad. You're late to the test. You don't feel as confident as you thought. Then you come home and mom is yelling at you, saying that you were supposed to take the dog out in the morning and now they peed all over the floor. What happens? You lose it. You start yelling and going off and it's, I can't believe you did this. This is all your fault. Now, are you really mad at mom? Or is there something else going on? What was something that you can control? You can control how you respond, accept that you woke up late, and it's okay. So if you can start recognizing some of those patterns and interrupt some of those things, that is when you can start taking control again of your thoughts. Or maybe you're in a relationship, friend, maybe a budding romantic relationship, you get in a fight. We have this thing called the 48-hour rule. Essentially, is if you wait 48 hours to respond and talk about this fight, and it doesn't really bother you anymore, and it can kind of be let go, then it might have not been that important. Not that it wasn't important, but what was going on, you were able to remedy it and have that control of your thoughts and feelings. Or maybe you can come back and you can talk about it more calmly and talk about how you felt. So thinking like it's okay to take a break, asking for help. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to have a bad day. And knowing that nothing is perfect. Utilizing this, talking about it with your friends and your family, checking in with yourself how you're feeling today, tomorrow as a pattern can be very helpful when you are stressed and coping. So before we end, I'd like to leave you with a simple breathing exercise to ground yourself. And maybe it's something that you enjoy, maybe it's not, but I hope that you can just sit and be for a minute, because this was a lot of information, and also maybe to help you get some ideas of how you can help manage your stress. So enjoy. Okay, so I hope that was something that you enjoyed and it was relaxing, or maybe you realize that no, this is totally not for me. And I appreciate that. So remember, make time for yourself because you are important. Thank you, and I hope you have a great rest of your school year. If you need to contact us, please remember our hotline, or you can reach out to us via your guidance counselors and teachers, and then we can get in contact with us as well. Thank you.